And welcome to another episode of the Dream Dojo Live. I'm thrilled to have you join us tonight as we delve into the fascinating realm of dreams with our special guest, hailing from the enchanting city of Sebastopol, California.
Sebastopol.
Sebastopol,
Yes.
California. Our guest is an anthropologist with over 17 years of expertise in the study of dreams, inspired by luminaries such as Fontana, Moss, Taylor, and Jung. They bring a wealth of knowledge and insight to our discussion tonight. So, without further ado, let's welcome our esteemed guests who will now introduce themselves and share a bit about their journey into the world of dream exploration. Christian, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here. I would say the place to start off is how I got into doing dream work. And it started 17 years ago. And I wasn't a dreamer before that. I knew I dreamed every now and then and I'd have something, but I never paid any attention to it or really noticed it in any way. And one day I was in the bookstore here in town in Sebastopol, and there was a book on dreaming there by David Fontana. And I thought, oh, that looks interesting. And I picked it up, started thumbing through it, and took it home and read it just nonstop. And after that, I went and picked up another one by Jeremy Taylor, and then one by Moss. And then I read Memories, Dreams, Reflections by Carl Jung, and I was hooked. And it happened literally overnight. And I started dreaming almost immediately, which isn't surprising. Once you start paying attention to your dreams, they start paying attention to you. So I got into that, and I just started reading voraciously on everything I could about dreaming. And it took me a while to start a dream journal as I started learning the ropes of how you do this stuff. I got a dream journal going. Then I finally joined a dream group. And then I decided that this is what I was going to do. And I wanted to conduct research and write on the subject. And I went into graduate school at Sonoma State University to enter the psychology program and get a better background in understanding dreams.
Wonderful, wonderful. So it sounds like books are what got you into your dream work. And I love that line, when you start paying attention to your dreams, they pay attention to you. That's beautiful. So let me ask you this, Christian. How do you think your understanding has evolved over the 17 years of experience?
Oh, I'm definitely much more knowledgeable now than I was then. I would hope so after 17 years. And I'm seeing that dreams have a real depth to them, that each person has a different style of dreaming, that the dreams that I have certain meaning for me that may have no meaning whatsoever for somebody else, and the dreams that they have refer to other aspects of their lives than they do for me. For example, my dreams usually comment on something I'm not paying enough attention to in my waking life. Other people, they use their dreams for letting them know how they feel spiritually about something. Other people use it as a way of being given guidance for what to do in life. And everybody does it differently. I'd say the biggest development in my studying of dreaming was when I really caught on to the idea of metaphor, that what's going on in a dream is symbolic and stands for something else. So that if I have a dream, for example, where I am shooting somebody, of all things, who knows what that means? Does it mean that I want to get rid of that person? Does it mean I want to get rid of a quality that person has? Or more likely, does that person have a quality that I have that I would like to get rid of in myself? And so once I caught on to metaphor, I really could see that that was the key to understanding dreams and working with them.
That is a wonderful interpretation. It sounds like you've done a lot of introspection to reach that level of understanding, and maybe to use a Jungian lens here. Some shadow work as well. I find it interesting that you say when you pay attention to your dreams, they pay attention to you. But then the next breath, you say how when you're not paying attention to something, dreams tend to pay attention to it. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about that that difference there.
Well, here's how I pay attention to my dreams. Let's just start with that. I basically dream every night. It's seldom that I wake up in the morning and feel I had no dream. It's been years and years since that just happens every now and then. But that doesn't mean I remember my dreams. And I can wake up and I can feel that I've dreamt. I'll wake up during the night and I'll have felt, oh, I just had a dream. And I don't necessarily remember it in the morning. And so one thing I do to pay attention to my dreams is, regardless of what happens in the night, I make an entry in my dream journal. If it's nothing more than I actively dreamed last night. And even if I just have something like the color green comes up often in my dreams. Okay, that's all I had maybe last night. I'll just jot that down. And I try to jot down my dreams as soon as I can after I get up in the morning. It's a regular little ritual I have. I keep an entire journal in my computer. I find it's easiest for me to write that way. I also can search for dreams. The search feature is just wonderful for going back and finding earlier dreams. And so that is my process of paying attention to and giving them the credit that they visited me in the night. And I find that by going back and paying attention to what I may have dreamt and just making a notice about it, it stimulates the unconscious. And in terms of what I'm not paying attention to, what I'm not paying attention to is in my waking life. And my dreams will come to me and I might be working on something. And my dream might indicate that, you're forgetting this aspect of what you're working on. You're writing that paper, but it's too short or it's too long, or something will come up in the dream that will suggest to me that I need to pay more attention to something. And often I see that, oh, okay, I just need to be more alert that this is actively happening in my life. And instead of just kind of, oh, I'm casually going along with things. And so that's how I alerted in my dreams to what I'm experiencing in my waking life and am not being cognizant enough of.
That makes sense. Okay, so maybe you can help me clarify how you dream journal, because I know a lot of my personal audience is just getting into dream work, otherwise beginners, and they're not really sure how to get started when they don't remember your dreams. And I really appreciate how you said, even if you don't know what you dreamt about, you're still recording that you had a dream. And no matter what, you're sticking to that habit of documenting in your dream journal. And I often wonder, what is the best way to dream journal? I have a theory that writing with a physical pen and paper does something for our memory in order to improve recall faster. But I know you mentioned you use a laptop computer, and especially that search function is so useful. Unless you're like creating an index in your notebook, it's a lot harder to find recurring themes or specific terms, right? So I love that. And I'm not too convinced that one method is better than the other. I truly believe that anything is better than nothing. But maybe you could tell us a little bit what your process looks like. What you record in your dream journal, how you write it down. For example, is it do you write as much detail as you can remember, or do you start with bullet points and then elaborate later? What does that look like for you?
I think the starting point is just like dreams are different for everybody, the dream journal is different for everybody. And whatever works, go for it. Try out different things. I know one person that records and gets up wakes up in the night and records it on their phone. Other people write it out in longhand, and that is a real favored process. And I think you're right about the aspect of the interaction between the hand, the eye, and the writing. I think there's definitely something there, and it's a value. My writing, when I start going fast, is not readable. Even when I'm going slow, it's sometimes not readable. But
yeah, especially in the dark.
And the computer allows me to write as fast as I want to. And so that's why I'm basically with a computer. But I think everybody needs to find their own way of what they find conducive to how they work. And it doesn't make any difference what the style is. You're absolutely right. Anything is better than nothing. And so what I do is I sometimes take notes in the middle of the night. I used to, for a while, I'd take notes every night. And I found that just exhausting. And I decided I was more interested in sleeping than I was in writing my dreams down in the middle of the night. So what I'll do is I'll get up in the morning and I will often just repeat dreams to myself that I had, run them right through my head as fast as I can, as soon as I can. And if I need to, I'll write down some keywords, and I'll sometimes write down extensively while I'm having my coffee before I even turn my computer on, things to jar my memory. So I'll sit down and I'll write pretty much as much detail as I possibly can. Fortunate or unfortunate, my dreams are generally on the short side. I know people who have dreams that go 3 or 4 pages long. I see it regularly in the various Facebook groups that I participate in. And I don't know how people can even begin to document a dream that long. And I think it's just fantastic that they can. And my dreams for me are fairly much on the short side. A full page is quite a big dream for me. They're usually a paragraph or 2, that kind of thing. And I'll sit down and I will write whatever comes to my mind about the dream, about my memory, and I try to capture as much of the dream as I possibly can. And here's something that is I think is interesting. I believe that when I'm working with my dream journal, I'm activating my unconscious. I'm going back to the unconscious, and things will pop up in my documentation of the dream. Like I'll be writing along saying, well, let's see, there was this pickup truck, and the pickup truck was moving fast, and it had a bicycle in the back. And, oh, yeah, it was a blue pickup truck. Where that came from, I don't know, but I pay attention to it because I think my unconscious got activated, and the conscious is actually actively working with me in the conscious mind in documenting that dream. And that's one of the things I think that are important about letting your unconscious know that you are dreaming, and doing that, just that, even that simple entry into the dream journal in the morning. It activates the unconscious, and it keeps you in touch with what is going on in your dream world, and it'll come back more readily. As to how to do it with pen, pencil, draw. I draw stick figures. I'm not an artist. Well, we're all artists, one kind or another, but stick figures are plenty good for me. And often it clarifies something, and if nothing else, it documents something very nicely. There's all kinds of ways of doing it. You can, if you're really motivated and the dream really moved you, make a collage of it. There's just all kinds of ways that this can be documented. Any way is better than nothing, though.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. You've really inspired me to try a laptop. That's actually one method I can't say I've done. I guess due to the ease of access, I've just never really kept one, nearby. It's always in my office or a workstation. But you made a statement that really stuck with me, and that was the speed of which you can record the dream, because I can't write in the dark or swipe on my phone. Recently, I've found that I as evolution of our cell phones has changed, the way that we type has also changed from a BlackBerry with the ultimate keyboard to a QWERTY keyboard where I could hold it under my desk at school and type out, entire text messages without looking. And now we use a swipe to text feature, which uses AI to recognize the patterns that you move around the keyboard to identify frequently used words. And recently it's been completely misconstruing my messages. So that's somewhat dangerous if you really value dream recall. So I think I'm going to try a keyboard, because I can definitely type without looking on a keyboard, and much faster than I can type on a cell phone. So yeah, I'll try that out, and I'll get back to you to let you know how that goes.
Okay, great. Yeah. I think there's another consideration. As I'm sure you know, dreams are fleeting and they don't stay in our memory very well. And I find that when I was handwriting stuff, I'd actually start forgetting the dream before I even got to the end of it. And because I can type fairly quickly on a keyboard, a laptop, I can document the dream much more fully, and I remember it much more.
Okay. I got a few more questions about this. So,
Sure, sure.
you mentioned how you activate your subconscious and that sort of plays into your memory of the dream. It's like it knows you're paying attention and it's giving you something back. So, do you start with the most recent memory of the dream, like the last thing you were thinking about, for example, and work your way backwards? Or do you, sort of work it out in a narrative way, sort of chronologically based on when it happened or you perceived it to happen within the dream? Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but it's not how I work. I will jot down whatever I can remember, regardless of what the
When it
sequence
happened.
is.
Yep.
So I might start. I usually try to start at the beginning of the dream, and also I'll remember. Oh yeah, something else had happened, and I'll quickly put that down so I don't forget it. And then I keep working back and forth. And sometimes I jot down the most recent dream I had, or sometimes I jot down the first dream I had in the night. And whatever it is that I'm remembering the most, and whatever's coming to me, I just sort of allow it to flow through me in whatever way it arises.
So an intuitive type. No.
Yes, very much so. You got it. Yeah.
I love that. So you're using those feelings and gravitating towards what carries the most emotional charge. It seems like, and I think that is powerful. It seems that we do remember the dreams that carry the most personal meaning, and also it might be why we remember nightmares more. So I wonder, do you believe that dream recall is connected to awakening? Like you have to wake up immediately after a dream in order to remember it? Is that something you've reflected on?
No, I've had dreams early in the night where I will remember them when I wake up much later. Um, but it is the case. I've noticed that when I wake up in the middle of the night and I've been dreaming, I have a higher tendency to know that I've been dreaming and a higher tendency to remember that dream. And it is one of the things that one wants to do generally is write it down as soon as one can so that the memory is there. But where was I going with this? When when I get up in the morning and I jot down that first initial dream, it's exactly whatever comes to my mind. It's the case that when you're in your REM stage, which is one thing about REM is that it gets longer every time you go through a sleep cycle. A sleep cycle lasts about an hour and a half, 90 minutes. And as you get to the end of that hour and a half, you have at first maybe 10 minutes of REM. By the end of the night, after you've gone through several sleep cycles, you might have 20, 30, 40 minutes of REM. And waking up right after that is when you have the highest ability to remember your dreaming. And that's the best time to be jotting it down.
Yes, I agree. For me personally, I've been in and out of my practice now for over 10 years, but very inconsistent. Also, due to some other recreational habits we won't mention here that are probably more admissible in your neck of the woods. But, whenever I stop and I focus on my health and I reset, the dreams come flooding back. And whether I'm trying to remember them or not, it becomes apparent that I'm experiencing them. And more often than not, the dream I remember best is right upon awakening, perhaps because I rely on an alarm to get up in the morning and it interrupts that last REM cycle. So it's sort of like as the dream is happening. But yeah, I think that the more you awaken throughout your sleep, the more dreams you'll be aware of. I think that's fair to say. But thank you so much for sharing all of those insights about your own personal dream journal. I know that's something so intimate to all of us, but for those who are interested in starting out, I think we both agree, just get started. Use whatever you can, pencil, crayon, phone, tablet, just write down the ideas and what sticks out to you and spend time thinking about your dreams and they'll come flooding back.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about your experience from teaching psychology at Sonoma State University. Would you care to share how you got started there and what that was like for you?
Yeah, I went to I went into the depth psychology focus of the psychology graduate program at Sonoma State University, and I went specifically to get credentialed to do dream work, write, research, and teach. And there was a need for teaching assistants in some of the other classes, and one of the classes was myth, dream, and symbol. And part of what that class did was have a dream group. It met twice a week, and we'd have dream groups that met as for an hour as part of the program. And so I would facilitate a dream group for that time with anywhere from 8 to 12 undergraduates. And it was generally people who didn't have real dream experience, though some definitely did. Some came really loaded with dream experience. And I would work with the students in a rather formal program of going through symbol exercises, presenting dreams, learning how to present a dream, how to be considerate of listening to somebody else's dream, and the proper way of, we used a projective dream method from Jeremy Taylor. And I'm open to using any method, but people definitely have their preferences. And we would do this all semester long as part of the myth, dream, symbol class. And one of the things I really liked about it was, first of all, I just enjoyed doing the dream work. It was really, really a pleasure. But somewhere along the way during the semester, you could see the doubters stop doubting. And they'd all of a sudden realize that what they explained in their dream had relevance to their dream life. And I found that with students, it was often really useful to ask questions like, after a dream was presented, so how are you doing in school? Or how is your boyfriend? How's your job doing? And all of a sudden there was a connection, an aha between, oh, that was about my job. And my dream was unhappy, and I'm unhappy with my job, and my dream is telling me that. Or I'm doing really good in school, and I'm glad that my dream is seeing that I'm doing really well in school, and I'm happy with that. But generally had to do something with their personal life involved with school very actively, those aspects of it. People have things like they're dreaming about their car breaking down. Well, we all have dreams like that. Well, for a student that can't get to class all of a sudden with their car breaking down, that's kind of a serious problem. And it comes up in the dream world when they're talking about it in a class context. Then one of the other things that the depth psychology program did was it offered their students the opportunity to teach a regular university course. And so I did a proposal. I had to write a complete syllabus, prepare the whole schedule. I mean, I had to do everything for getting it together for a semester, pick the textbooks, decide what the assignments were going to be and everything like that. Had to run it by the university before they approved it. And I taught for 2 semesters a class on the psychology of dreams. And it was just really, really enjoyable to do. The students, when they come to such a focused class, are really interested in the subject. And they all come for just all kinds of different reasons. They like dreaming. One person came because they were concerned about the nightmares they were having and wanted to have a better understanding of the dreaming process. Other people were interested in spiritual aspects of dreams. What could they learn about their spirituality? Just a variety of subjects. And I just found it to be absolutely pleasurable. Right now, I'm in the middle of writing another proposal for a school down in Marin County, and we'll see. I'm turning the proposal in a couple of weeks, and I might be teaching a class again this coming fall. Basically, the pandemic put an end to, I had everything lined up for teaching more classes, and the pandemic came, and I'm just now getting back into the swing of things. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, that is amazing that you brought that to the university and were able to teach for a couple of semesters. That sounds like a dream come true, truly.
It
So,
was.
if you need a teaching assistant, I'll be happy to fly out to the West Coast and just sit there and take notes. But that's amazing, and I think that as a civilization, we should incorporate dream work into these curriculums from an elementary level, especially since kids tend to dream more. It would be a
Mhm.
great way to encourage just self reflection and introspection. I mean, like you mentioned, just myth and symbol. There's so much to take away from that alone. So
Yeah. You've
awesome.
just yeah, you've just touched on something that I think is really important, and I firmly believe that the more attention we pay to our dreams, the better a place the world will be. And it is really difficult to be somebody that reflects seriously on their dreams and not increase their sensitivity to other people, increase in sensitivity to themselves, and be more accepting of divergent viewpoints. And I think if we were doing more work with dreaming, we would definitely have an improved world.
I agree. And somebody actually posted that on a group I was in. They said if all the lucid dreamers and let's just say dreamers get together and started their own, town or civilization, what would that look like? And I said, I think we'd all be aligning with nature, living in tree houses. And that's my dream. But yeah, one thing that always strikes me is that when you speak to a true dreamer, you notice how self-oriented they are, and not in a selfish way.
Mhm.
It's to refer back to our earlier discussion about the dream journal. We both agree, use what works for you, right? We share our experiences, what works, what doesn't work, but we never claim authority over the other person, which is so profound. I think we need more of that in this world. Well, thank you for your contribution already to that program. I bet the students who were there were truly blessed to have you. Um, and I would have loved to be a part of something like that in my own university study, let me tell you.
Mhm.
Great. So just moving on now, let's talk a little bit more. How about all that hard work and dedication has eventually landed you as the Northern California representative for IASD, the International Association for the Study of Dreams. So let me ask you, in the context of IASD, what do you see as the most pressing issue or exciting developments in the field currently?
Boy, that's quite a question. One of the things that I'm seeing that I can see is both problematic and has a lot of potential is the AI movement. I'm seeing people starting to present AI illustrations of their dreams by telling AI what their dreams were and looking for a graphic display of that. And so one thing I've noticed is some of these graphics are just astounding. But I've noticed that so far, every person that has posted one of these usually says, didn't get it quite right. There was something going on there that just wasn't happening in my dream, or they didn't get something that was happening in my dream. And I think that this is going to be, it's got a lot of potential. I'm on the fence of where I feel about AI. It's got real problems with plagiarism and ripping off artists and writers. I think there's a real difficulty there. And it's already infiltrated the school system, where the teaching system right now is such that it's working very actively to make sure that the students aren't turning in AI papers. I'm taking a class on mythology right now at the local JC, and I'm experiencing this at firsthand, that the class is structured in such a way to avoid having AI produce the papers for the students. And so that's an interesting experience. But I think there's also some real potential there. And I've been really impressed by some of the graphics that I've seen the Dreamers present. And it's just really kind of astounding stuff. So I'm not sure where that's going and if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know, but it's really leading edge stuff at the moment.
Yeah, I'd love to talk with you just for a moment about that. I'm so glad that you have direct experience with the university and how they're integrating AI sensitive repercussions to make sure that the content is original. As somebody who works daily with AI myself, I find that it's coming regardless of how we feel about it, Christian.
That's
And
right.
the best thing I know to do is to just evolve and adapt and to integrate, right? Because if I didn't have the experience I do currently with that software, I wouldn't recognize it nearly as much when I see it online. May it be in written form or, like you said, with illustrations. Now there are several markers that I can identify to distinguish: is this somebody who put effort into this content, or was this just spit out of a machine? And what I've found is that it does take a considerable amount of effort to take an idea from your brain, extrapolate it onto a screen, and communicate that with this interface in a way that produces a result that yourself can agree with. And may it be illustrating your dream or organizing your day. I mean, I'll for full sake of full transparency, I used AI in order to write the description for our video. So what I would do is take a long block of text, I'd plug it into AI and say, let's summarize the key takeaways from this point, or reformat it in a way that's, because I'm a very visual person. So I like using headings, bold fonts, and key points. And if you put it in bullet point format, I can quickly scan a document and discern what is said better than if I were to read through it myself. I find maybe it's my attention deficit kicking in, right? Where like I become distracted. But if I can visualize the content, I can apply it better. And so the issue with that is you don't necessarily have to do the work yourself, right? It's like, how much are you actually learning about the other person if you allow AI to just summarize the main points? What nuances are you missing? And then for the things that I really pour myself into, I noticed that it glosses over some things, and you have to sort of like what they say is reiterate and try again, and it evolves over time. So I myself, I'm an advocate for it, but with full transparency and ethical use, right? So if you're allowing it to write your entire paper, that's not right. But if you use it to help outline the structure of your paper, and then you fill in some details and you include some sources, and I see nothing wrong with it, to be quite honest with you. There are some tools where you can like take a block of text, for example, and put it into a software that will identify how much it seems to be created by AI. So I'm sure a lot of universities are implementing software like that to see if it is original. But I don't know. It's an interesting time to be at the threshold of this new technology. I feel it will change a lot of the future. I know it's personally revolutionized the way I think and organize. So yeah, I agree with you. It has potential, but we'll see, right?
Well, when I was teaching, and which I hope to go back to real soon now, I did have the possible issue of students turning in papers of material that they just copied straight off of the internet somewhere. And there's programs that can identify it very easily if that's happened. And I think we'll have the same thing happen with AI. I actually had my students turn in every paper electronically. And if I needed to, I could activate a plagiarism program to have the paper reviewed. I never had to even do that. I was very happy with all the students with what they turned in. I did an interesting thing with AI recently using ChatGPT, and I asked it to talk to me about the study of animal dreams and do animals dream. And it was pretty good what it said. I found it pretty mediocre. It wasn't very full, and it missed some of the most up-to-date stuff that was going on with, especially the work that's being done with octopuses. And I pay a lot of attention to animal dreaming. It's what I wrote my graduate paper on, and I just found that the AI was just it was weak and presented. Granted, I understand I would need to teach it and work with it to get better responses and stuff. But I found it to be just weak in general. And in terms of what I would be able to present myself without it, was much deeper than the AI had done. And I'm also seeing that what some teachers are doing is actually using, and I like this idea, I'd be inclined to do it myself. Have the students take an AI subject, and mine would be in teaching dreaming, and have it write a paper. Have it write a paper for them. Then the students have to comment on what's good, what's wrong, what's strong, what's weak. Make commentary like this on the AI paper itself. And
That's wonderful.
It's an interesting experience I had when I was teaching with my own class. Basically, the policy at the university was no cell phones in the class. And let's be realistic. They're in there in the class with their cell phones. They've got it running. They're looking stuff up. They're doing texting. That's just all there is to it. And it'd be kind of a totalitarian effort to keep the cell phones away. Like you have to put them somewhere at the beginning of the class, at the front of the room, or something like that. That just doesn't fit well with me. So
That's a safety issue, if you ask me. I don't like the idea of taking away communication.
No. But so what we would do is we'd be talking in class, and somebody would ask me a question that I didn't know the answer to. And I would just say, somebody want to look that up? People would get on their phones and look up stuff with all kinds of information. Then we'd have a discussion about what was found out there in the internet world about dream information, and it stimulated the discussion as opposed to distracting it. And I found that the students had a really great time when we did that. We only did that every now and then, but it worked just smashingly well when it was done.
I love that perspective, and the idea that this is open source technology. Let's level the playing field and see what sticks, right? If everybody can use it, then, there still has to be a defining factor there. The people who put in the effort should essentially stand out, check their sources, like you said, comment on the material that as it was written. I really enjoy that. And I think that is the ultimate future because, again, whether we like it or not, it seems to be coming. And I actually have a thought based on our earlier topic. What if you had students write by hand? Wouldn't it take exceedingly longer to transcribe something that was produced, outside of yourself as opposed to like stream of consciousness and refining it? I think that might be a human touch, but you're right. There's ways around that. And the best thing to do is just accept it for what it is and work with it. That's my personal opinion. I'd love to talk.
I quite agree with you. It's here. It's going to stay here, and we need to find out how to work with it. And
Great.
that's kind of doesn't mean that I like all the stuff that it does, but I need to find a way of coping with it and dealing with it because it is not going to go away.
Yeah, just imagine everybody handing in handwritten papers, and it's not even legible, right? I mean, like technology has its pros and cons. Let's put it that way. And I'm very interested in hearing a little bit about. You mentioned animal dreams and how you wrote your graduate paper on that. Would you care to elaborate a bit more about what that paper was on?
Yeah, basically it was a review of the literature discussing various aspects of animal dreams, such as I don't remember some of the details anymore. It's been a while now, but men dream differently about animals than women do. Children dream differently about animals than adults do. And what got me started on that was James Hillman in a book called Dream Animals. And I was reading that, and he said, hang on a second. And I got it right here.
Very cool.
He says, where to go? This is called, this is one of his chapters in the Dream Animals book. And he says, as if a dream animal comes to prompt our emotions of warmth or fear, of night terror or compassionate memory of love in childhood. And this is what got me. He says, What is their need, their reason for coming into our sleep? And that just changed my whole perspective on what dreaming could possibly be. The elements that are coming into my dreams have their own reason for coming into them. And it just kind of just shook up my whole world of dreaming. And it was just an entirely different way of thinking about what is happening in the dream world. And I
I got
just,
goosebumps. No,
and
truly, because as somebody who has frequent nightmares, I mean that kind of shakes me to my core. But it rings so true.
mhm. And I thought, okay, so what is this with animals? And I've been pretty fond of animals all my life. I have a dog right now. I've always had a dog. I have bunches of critters when I was a kid, but I never really thought about it in the sense that Hillman did. Give it to Hillman to come up with a really different way of thinking about things. And I decided I was going to do my research and graduate paper on animals that are in our dreams.
Very cool. Very cool. I love that. And, I think nature can teach us a lot about ourselves, right? So if animals are dreaming, then there must be an evolutionary biological function there, and
Yes.
it's not to be dismissed. Um, Very exciting. In that same breath, maybe you could just share what you think is the most exciting development. I know you said AI might be the most potentially concerning topic, but what's really exciting for you right now in the field of dreams in this community?
I don't know that I have anything in particular that I see exciting. I find dreaming in general is just astounding. It's just an amazing experience. Um, I know that you're interested in lucid dreaming, and a lot of people are doing active work with lucid dreaming, and I think that that's real positive stuff. There's definitely work going on in neuroscience of better understanding of how the brain works and how it's the whole process of dreaming, what parts of the brain are activated, and what the flow of energy is during sleeping. So there's some real interesting stuff happening there. That's all more medical than I pursue, but I think it's important to do, and I think there's real value there. I'm also finding it's interesting. Are you familiar with 350 Dreamers on Facebook?
No, I can't
Um,
say I am. Is that a group?
uh, it's a dream group that gets together once every 3 months and dreams for the well-being of the planet. And
Amazing.
it's got that feeling to it of what can we learn from nature, just as you mentioned a moment ago, and what does our dreaming tell us about what we can do ourselves for the well-being of the planet? And I think that's a real interesting way of looking at the world, of that interface between us and the rest of the world. And how does dreaming do that? How does it enlighten us about that? What can we learn from the world around us coming forth in our dreams? And what 350 Dreamers is interested in is we dream about the well-being of the planet, and does it inform us in any way how we can go about that? And people usually have some comments about what they feel they can personally do to improve the condition of the planet.
Amazing. Wow. I think there's some real value in getting together online or in person, right? You mentioned Dream Circles as a part of that graduate program with a dozen or so
Yes.
students, and really just, especially with the people in your immediate life who know you best, who share many of the common, uh, let's say, collective consciousness of your personal life, to say, if this were your dream, what would that mean? And bouncing ideas off of each other, but to apply that in a way that creates what I'll refer to as a lucid lifestyle, not just lucid dreams, but lucid in life as well. That's a really beautiful and profound thing. So thank you for sharing that. I'll definitely have to look up 350 Dreamers. That's the
Oh,
name of the group.
yeah, yeah.
I'd
It's
love to be a part of that.
definitely worth participating in, and I sure encourage you to do that. It's interesting about dreamers sharing information. Um, I found when I first started going to IASD conferences, there was something special about that. Meeting with dreamers, there's an immediate bond. And if we're willing to share our dreams with each other, something that is deep and personal, there's a certain sensitivity there. There's a certain acceptance of each other there, and I think it facilitates having a certain way of living and presenting oneself. That when I meet with another dreamer and we talk, and we're willing to share something, when you share a dream, you might not have any idea of what you're sharing. It could take a while to come out, but there's a willingness and openness to be together and to share. And I think those are just wonderful qualities that people can have with each other.
Yeah, you mentioned IASD. I just discovered it myself over the last year or so, right before the last conference, and I was amazed that something like that existed on a global scale, and I was determined to make it there. And so this year, I made a commitment to myself. I will be there, and is it June? Yeah, June
June,
this year,
June,
in
yeah.
the Netherlands, right?
Yeah, and then I got the dates right here. Let me see. I got to shuffle some papers. June 8 to 12 at Kerkrade in the Netherlands. And I've gone to a dream conference there before at the Ralduk Abbey. It is a fantastic place to do dream work. It started in the 1400s, and it's been built up and over and ever since. And it's just a dynamite spot. It went out way ahead of all the other places that we voted on this year as to where to have our conference. And it's just a great spot to do it. So if you're going there, I'll see you there.
I will be there. I'll say that.
Great.
I don't know how, but I got permission from the wife, which is 90% of the battle. So, but yeah, I'm working on it currently. Actually, I'm hoping to appear as some sort of poster board presenter. I know the deadline is fast approaching next month, but I'd love to just appear in some official capacity to share some of the work I've been doing because I'm so passionate about it, and really in hopes of connecting with, other dreamers there who might be able to share their experiences and help me along my way. So,
well, that would be just wonderful. That would be great if you're to do something. My colleagues, Suzanne Van Dorn, she's from the Netherlands, and we've been working together for years and years. We write together and do all kinds of things. We did a workshop about 8 years ago at Ralduk, and we're doing another one this year. So it's going to be one of the morning dream group workshops. Awesome. And our what's our title? It's Spiritual Earth, Dreams, Spirituality, and Meditation to Explore Our Planet's Well-Being. And so what we're going to do is every day using the four alchemical elements of earth, water, air, and fire is do an incubation to see what comes up in our dreams, and we're going to connect it directly to the well-being of our planet.
That's amazing. I really do think that dreamers can make the world a better place. I mean, it's no coincidence that dreams take on multiple definitions, and in multiple cultures, we associate aspirations and lifelong worthy goals with what we do at night when we're unconscious. Mm-hmm. And if we could just figure out how to bring those two worlds together, then it would truly be like heaven on earth, in my opinion. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So you're hosting a workshop. A dear friend of mine, I'm going to mention her, Mina, the Dream World podcast. She's doing a workshop on lucid dreaming. So one of the most awesome aspects of IASD, in my opinion, is getting together in like that classroom setting and sharing information and experiences. So in terms of the Spiritual Earth workshop, can you explain that connection between dream, spirituality, and meditation, and what that might look like? A little sneak peek.
Yeah, sure. Be glad to. Basically, what we're wanting to do is we feel that there's the part of the issue of what's wrong with what's going on the planet these days is that we don't have a spiritual connection with nature. And what we want to do in the workshop is present an aspect of nature alchemically. And what we're specifically looking at is the alchemical process of transformations of earth, water, air. And we can think of things like the earth is eroding because the water is not being managed properly. We're having too much rain coming down from the climate change. The air is being polluted. Fire, well, we're having these wildfires. All these things tie into the state of nature on our planet at the moment. But we also want to look at the alchemy of transformation, with fire being the ultimate transformer in alchemy. And so what we want to do is every day review one aspect of our planet and what can we feel that we spiritually have a connection to? Does our dream come forth and give us a spiritual connection to the earth, to the air, to the water, to fire? And people are all going to be different about this. Some people may not connect at all. Some people might connect with all of them. Some people might not connect with earth, let's say, and are definitely connecting with air. What in the dream is coming up that suggests how we can personally live our own life in a spiritual way to benefit the earth, to benefit each other? And is there something in our dreams that will inform us of what this is?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Whether we're aware of it or not, there must be a connection there somewhere. And if we look within, we may find answers without, right? I think that's a worthwhile goal, to say the least. So we've talked a lot about your experience with education and now at the workshops, how you integrate a spiritual practice. I'm wondering, how do you navigate between the Jungian approach and other methodologies in your work with dream groups and other workshops?
Um, I've been massively influenced by Carl Jung, and I'd really recommend reading Memories, Dreams, and Reflections for anybody that hasn't. It's just, I mean, it's a page turner. At least it was for me. And I just look at all kinds of different ways of working dreams. Gestalt is a good example. So we're looking at a fairly different style there, where every aspect of the dream is considered to be an aspect of oneself, which, with a little bit of consideration, and all it has to be, it's happening within us. It's already part of us. Everything that's happening in that dream is part of us. And I find that there is no need to reconcile anything. It's just a question of what do people feel most comfortable with, and at times, what is most explanatory. I'm looking at something say, from a Jungian sense of wholeness, seeking completion of the self, individuation. And I've got symbols of certain kinds in the dream. And circles are common for self, squares are common for self. So maybe that dream's talking about the Jungian self that I'm experiencing. But there's also, to go back to animals, there's this dog in my dream. What might that mean? Is that a part of something that I have? Is there something happening with that dog that reflects me? And then I realized that, the day before, I really had some loyalty that I showed to a friend of mine who needed some support. And the dog did exactly that with me in my dream. And I'm being reminded of something I did in my waking life. And it's just a different way of looking at it. And that's not necessarily a Jungian approach, but it could be a Gestalt approach, considering that the dog is representing my own behavior. So whatever works, as far as I'm concerned, and very important, whatever the dreamer is comfortable with. And it was mentioned earlier about not telling people what their dreams mean or how to go about doing it, and letting them be whoever they are. And I think that's really important. And I think if somebody insists upon, this is how we're going to do this dream style, I'm pretty reticent to think that that's an appropriate response and approach to doing dream work. It's what is the dreamer comfortable with, and what do they get out of working with it? And if they're not comfortable with one way, well, let's try something else.
That's an amazing perspective, and I'm still learning so much about Jung. I need to really dive into his books, to be honest with you. I've just been sort of studying the philosophy, um, and it's so interesting that a psychologist could be, a philosopher in the same breath. It's again for me blending those two worlds, right? The science with the spirituality. He's done it masterfully, and one thing that really sticks out to me from his work is synchronicity. It's something that I've found has opened my eyes to a whole new reality. And when I discovered synchronicity is when I began my appreciation for crystals and gemstones. So
Uh-huh.
I got one around my neck now. I was very dismissive of the notion, considered myself to be a logical, rationalizing person. Things have to have a reason for their being. And then I got into the geology of gemstones and the mythology of every gemstone and the stories and associations and why do stones have these attributes and why do people give them meaning and what does it mean for them. And there was this whole underbelly of mental health there, that people who are drawn to these things are seeking something. The
Mhm.
notion that what you seek is seeking you,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
and that everybody has their stone, right? And you might have a different stone for different stages of your life, but when I found mine, I came across a stone which is actually a tektite. It's
Uh-huh.
moldavite, and it is a stone associated with synchronicity. I didn't think much of it until it was placed in my hand and I began to feel this buzzing sensation. And immediately the placebo effect might have taken a hold of me. But nonetheless, I had an experience there.
Mhm. I
And go ahead.
Yeah, I think something that you just mentioned, what you're just saying is the word meaning. When synchronicity occurs, meaning goes up. And regardless of why these things happened, this event happened at the same time that this event happened. Oh my God, isn't that something? It really makes no difference why it did happen. And the meaning that we experience, the profundity and registering of the experience goes way up when a synchronistic event occurs.
Well, the gentleman who sold it to me for, what I thought was a ridiculous price for the size of this little thing, turns out that crystals and gemstones are an asset that only goes up in value over time because of how we're pillaging the earth. So there's a
Mhm.
metaphor there somewhere as well. But he basically told me to just take it, stick it in my sock drawer, forget about it for a month. It won't matter. But the seed of intention was planted. Something drastically will change within a month. And before I knew it, I had quit my job I'd been at for years. I'd fallen in love with my now wife. I had moved out of my house and rushed into a relationship, and now here we are years later with a daughter of our own and a small gemstone and crystal jewelry business that helps support her creativity, and still exercises my business administration skills I learned from university. And wow, wow, would I, if you would have tapped me on the shoulder that day and said, hey, this could be you, I would have never believed it. But nonetheless, I found myself walking that path and sharing experiences with so many beautiful people. I wouldn't change a thing about
Mhm.
it. And
Mhm.
so, synchronicity, the more you notice it, the more it happens. And studying Jung after I discovered that was like the floodgates of association. Just I
Uh-huh.
knew that this was somebody who had tapped into like an ancestral level of consciousness. And here I am today speaking with you, still trying to connect the dots. So
Mhm.
we're coming up on an hour now, Christian. I think that was a wonderful conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this
Oh,
with
my
me
pleasure.
today.
My pleasure.
Um, I believe we could talk for much longer, truly, and I look forward to getting to know you better, hopefully. But I did want to mention at least one comment I had seen throughout our recording here, and that's somebody had come from YouTube. Their name was Water Fountain 7, and they said, Christian, how do you pronounce your last name?
Garricky.
Garricky.
And
Garricky.
I'm not fussy about it in the slightest.
That's synchronicity. Oh my God. No way. No way. That's hilarious. I just mentioned something about, to my wife earlier about how, you know, I have a funny last name myself, and funny in the sense that it's spelled differently than most people pronounce it. And people add letters and they, twist it in mysterious ways. And I said to her, I said, honestly, I'm fine with people calling me whatever they want as long as I know they're speaking to me. And she goes, yeah, as long as you're calling people what they like to be called, because there's nothing sweeter than the sound of your own name.
Yeah.
And we've never had a conversation like that, but here we are, and you mention it again, and it just strikes a chord. So Garricky, thank you for explaining that. Well, Water Fountain 7 says, you look like me. That's so weird. WTF. So we found your doppelganger in the comment section on YouTube, and perhaps you have more in common than just the way you look. But yes, this has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate your time, so I'm going to let you go now, but please stay in touch. I would love to talk with you more about anything we brought up here today. And it was a true pleasure of mine. Thank you.
Well, that sounds wonderful, and I look forward to having more conversations and seeing you at Ralduck.
Yes, thank you. Hold me accountable to that. The deadline's approaching, so I might reach out to you for some advice about what that process looks like. It would be very helpful.
Oh, anytime. Anything I can do.
All right. Well, that concludes another episode of the Dream Dojo live show. Thank you so much for tuning in throughout the show. If you're here now, I see we still have somebody in the audience watching, and many people tune in after the fact. So be sure to let us know you did check it out. And hopefully we'll be seeing you soon. Sweet dreams.